All right, today we are diving into one of the most audacious, bizarre, and just flat-out brilliant deception plans in all of military history. This is a story where the course of a war was turned not by a bomb, but by a body.
So how on earth does a dead man change the course of World War II? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a spy novel, right? But this is the absolutely true story of how British intelligence used a corpse, a briefcase, and an incredibly detailed backstory to fool the entire German high command, and in doing so, save thousands of lives. It's a wild tale that begins with a monumental strategic problem.
Okay, so let's set the scene here. It's 1943, and the Allies, well, they've got momentum. After a huge victory in North Africa, they are ready to strike at what Winston Churchill called the soft underbelly of Axis-controlled Europe. And if you just look at a map, the most logical, most strategic target is staring you right in the face, the island of Sicily. And that was the massive danger. If it was obvious to the Allies, you can bet it was obvious to the Germans. They knew Sicily was coming. That meant they could turn the island into an absolute fortress, making any invasion a brutal, high-casualty bloodbath on the beaches. The Allies' greatest advantage was also their biggest liability. So you can really see the stakes here. The success of the whole invasion, which was codenamed Operation Husky, it all came down to one single thing: surprise. They had to convince the Germans to look somewhere, anywhere else. The question was, how in the world do you do that?
Well, the answer came from a plan so strange, so out there, it had actually been dismissed before as, and this is a quote, not a very nice one. But you know, desperate times call for desperately creative measures, and that led to the birth of Operation Mincemeat. And get this, the idea's roots were actually in something called the Trout Memo, which was written by none other than Ian Fleming. Yep, that Ian Fleming, the future creator of James Bond. The concept was resurrected by a secret intelligence group with two men, Ewan Montague and Charles Cholmondeley, taking the lead to turn this macabre bit of fiction into a military reality.
So here's the plan in a nutshell. It sounds simple, but every single detail had to be perfect. This wasn't just about planting some papers. No, this was a full-blown theatrical performance, and it had to be flawless to convince an enemy that was actively looking for deception. And this is where the real genius of Operation Mincemeat comes in. It wasn't just the lie itself, but the man they created to tell it. They had to invent a person so real, so thoroughly human, that the Germans just couldn't possibly imagine he was fake. The team secretly got the body of Glyndwr Michael, a homeless man who had tragically died from pneumonia in London. He was then given a new life after death as Major William Martin of the Royal Marines, a completely fictional officer who was about to become the most important spy in the world. Now check this out, because it's the tiny details that sell the big lie. This pocket litter was designed to build a complete human being. They created a love life, family, hobbies, but the real masterstroke? That overdraft notice from his bank. I mean, what could possibly be more real than a guy with everyday money problems? It's brilliant. In those love letters, they basically gave Major Martin a soul. They were penned by an MI5 secretary, and they created this really powerful emotional story that made his accidental death feel tragic, and more importantly, authentic. It was a psychological barrier designed to disarm suspicion. You just wouldn't think something this personal could be a trick. So, with Major Martin fully created, from his uniform right down to his love letters, it was time for the final act. The entire operation now hinged on a submarine, a Spanish fisherman, and a very well-placed German agent. The drop-off point, near Huelva, Spain, was chosen with surgical precision. See, Spain was officially neutral, but it was crawling with Axis sympathizers, and Huelva had a particularly active German agent. The currents would do the rest, delivering Major Martin and his secrets right where they needed to go. And this was the poison pill. The documents pointed to Allied invasions of Greece and Sardinia, two totally plausible targets. And Sicily? Oh, that was mentioned only as a diversion, a feint. This played directly into Hitler's own paranoia. He was primed to believe that the most obvious target had to be a trick. And boy, did he take the bait. Hook, line, and sinker. After German intelligence analyzed the documents, Hitler himself was completely convinced. This quote from his own directive says it all. He ordered entire panzer divisions to be moved away from Sicily to reinforce Greece, fatally weakening his position. So the trap was set. The enemy had moved its pieces, and the deception was a success. All that was left was for the real invasion to begin, and for the Allies to see just how effective their ghost agent had really been. When the Allied troops finally hit the beaches of Sicily, they found defenses that were way weaker and more disorganized than they had any right to be. The German and Italian forces were literally looking the other way, expecting the main attack to hit Greece. Major Martin had done his job perfectly.
And really, this is the crucial point. Operation Mincemeat wasn't just a clever spy story. It had a profound, very human impact. By diverting enemy forces, this one incredible deception saved the lives of thousands of soldiers who would have otherwise faced a heavily fortified slaughterhouse on that coastline. Its success was so profound that it became the gold standard for strategic deception. The lessons learned here about psychological warfare and the power of a convincing story directly influenced later operations, including the massive deception campaigns that came before the D-Day landings in Normandy. And while the operation's success is a fact of history, it leaves us with a really complex question. The story of the man at its center, Glyndwr Michael, remained a secret for over 50 years. It's a powerful reminder that in the grand strategies of war, the stories often come down to individuals, and in this case, one who never even knew the pivotal part he played.